Hi everyone, Jaymes Mansfield here bringing you yet another video. Oh my god, it's yet another episode of Iconic Blondes. Yes! And this week we have quite the iconic blonde. It is none other than the siren of the silver screen, Marlene Dietrich. Yes, Marlene Dietrich, the German-born screen siren of the 1930s and 40s. She was a trailblazer in Hollywood history, and we're going to talk about it. So, if you want to learn more about old school Hollywood history and people who are rule breakers and troublemakers and influencers of their time, please stay tuned. I'll be using the Best Actress Blonde from Jaymes Mansfield Beauty, my wig line, to create this amazing 1960s inspired bubble flip kind of look that she had. Now, Marlene Dietrich in the 60s looked really elegant and refined. Now, I was going to do her like early years, but I felt like the 60s is really what people think of when you think of Marlene. When she was a little older and she was just making the rounds, being this legend. She would do all talk shows. That's a lot of the clips I first saw when I started researching her and when I became obsessed with her as a teenager. Now, Marlene Dietrich was born in Germany, and she would be quite the troublemaker up until her high school years. Like, she had no interest in really pursuing a further education. She wanted to be an entertainer. And by the time she was able to, she became a star of cabaret. Yes, she worked in the cabarets of Germany at that time. And at that time, they were quite a decadent, quite open-minded place. It honestly is unlike any place today where homosexuality was not really scrutinized. Bisexuality was just a normal thing. People just lived their lives side by side and enjoyed amazing art. And fantastic art was coming out of Germany at this time. If you ever watch the movie Cabaret, it's kind of invoking that spirit of that time. It takes place during then, before the Nazis came and ruined everything. Yes. Marlene Dietrich was a cabaret star, and she was making a name for herself because she had a little gimmick where she would forget to wear underwear under her dresses. And her low cut dresses would ride up when she jumped on that piano. And wouldn't you know, sometimes you got to peek at Marlene Dietrich. Yeah, so she became known as a scandalous cabaret star who honestly had quite the reputation of just being this lady that loved love, okay? She couldn't get enough of it. And she caught the eye of the German director, von Stromberg, who wanted to make her his muse. He had this idea for a movie based around a cabaret act called The Blue Angel. And he got one look at Marlene and thought, she has to be the star. Now, The Blue Angel will become Marlene's breakout role. And one of the films she's most remembered for and most thought of. Like, it's in the Criterion. It is an iconic role. And Marlene just sizzles in it. And The Blue Angel will become a fantastic hit in Germany. Like, totally like a cultural reset. People became obsessed with Marlene Dietrich. She became a star overnight. And it's just because she had this cool, sultry air about her. And she had this, like, not giving a fuck kind of attitude that was truly refreshing for its time, and unlike really anything that had come before. Now, von Stromberg had the opportunity to come to America and to bring Marlene with him. And he wanted to introduce her in a very, very, very specific way. They had made a couple films together at this point, really cementing Marlene as a star. But the film he wanted to introduce her in was Morocco. Yes. Before The Blue Angel was even released here in the States, he wanted to introduce her in Morocco. And Morocco is quite a fantastic introduction. When you watch it, like, Marlene Dietrich had this reputation in Germany of being one of these, like, nymph kind of women that could show up one day being the most glamorous feminine person you've ever seen. And the next minute, she'd be in, like, men's clothing in a suit, very butch and very, like, mask presenting. Like, she played with gender so much in her youth that it was just something she did in common occurrence. She loved it. But Morocco was one of these roles that really encapsulated kind of the essence of Marlene Dietrich, and honestly is one of those key point looks that has been referenced throughout time by many artists since. Now, the scene in particular, she is singing a song in French, and she's basically eyeing her lover, a male across the table, who's at the table with another giggling girl. Now, she's in a men's suit, full coat and tails, the top hat, cigarette, very swag, had so much swagger, so beautiful, and she walks over. She asked the woman if she could have the flower, which the woman, of course, agrees, like, of course. And then she sniffs it and then leans in and kisses the woman on her mouth, scandalizing Hollywood. Like, Marlene Dietrich was introduced to Hollywood this way. And what an introduction. People stood up on their seats like they had never seen a star like this before. She was exotic. She was dangerous. She was from this decadent, faraway place that people had heard so much about. And Marlene Dietrich would soon become the highest paid woman in Hollywood. Like, she was producing hit after hit after hit. Like, people couldn't get enough of her. Morocco, Blonde Venus, Shanghai Express, like, you name it, she has some hits under her belt. And her and von Stromberg become a very hard to beat combination. People were eating it up. And the two were lovers, but Marlene never tied herself down to one man. And she had a reputation in Hollywood for taking on a lover of any gender. She didn't care. Like, she loved love, she loved lust, and she just wanted to have a good time. And if that meant one or two lovers at a time, that was just the way it was going to be. Like, she truly lived life on her terms. Marlene's last film with von Stromberg would not fare very well. And this is also because they were reaching a very tumultuous point in their relationship where they were just over each other. And you can even tell in the film watching it, like, he is not feeling her anymore. Like, you can tell they've had it up to here with each other and they needed to break free. And Marlene Dietrich, unfortunately, this film would flop, which would land her in an article amongst other stars like Mae West and Joan Crawford as being box office poison. Now, Marlene hadn't pocketed a lot of money at this point, so she decided to take a few years off and just flee away to other countries and date whoever she wanted, one of whom was the author of All Quiet on the Western Front. Like, she was jet-setting and just living a lavish life, taking on lovers here and there, not giving a flying fuck. And she would soon get called back to Hollywood with an offer to do a comedy. The idea was Marlene Dietrich in a Western. Now, when she heard the idea, she laughed at it immediately. She thought it sounded preposterous. Like, of all people, why would you ever think of Marlene Dietrich being in the Wild West? Now, she read the script and agreed to do it after reading it. She wanted to be a part of this because it was a very good comedy, and that comedy would be Destry Rides Again. And when you watch this, like, it is very, very fascinating where her career was going after this. Like, even when she sings songs like See What the Boys in the Back Room Will Have and Tell Them I'm Having the Same. Like, she's playing this amazing, sultry, sexy saloon singer. And what I love about Marlene Dietrich is, like, she could be sultry and sexy, but there's, like, this air of danger and decadence. Like, you're almost getting away with something when you watch her, you know? Like, you feel like you're getting away with something. Like, that's the kind of persona she had. And the fact that, like, you still feel that, even watching her today, just shows just how powerful her persona was. And just how much thought she put into her persona and her look. Down to the lighting, bitch, okay? Like, she had worked with von Stromberg so closely that she knew where her key light had to land in order to get the proper shadow under her eyes and under her nose. Like, she knew exactly how her face was supposed to look in a black and white camera. Like, that kind of attention to the fine details. Like, she knew all of it, and she would tell you exactly how you were going to like her. Now, wartime would break out, and the Nazis would soon start occupying many places overseas. And Marlene, who had just become a naturalized citizen of the States, was reading the papers and seeing what Hitler was doing to her home country, and she hated every bit of it. Like, all the beautiful art and artists were being taken away and killed, and she couldn't sit by and, like, watch it happen. She had to do something. So she began doing USO tours. And when I say she did USO tours, I'm not just talking about, like, she'd show up in a pretty dress and sing a couple songs for some soldiers. Like, she threw herself into the fight. She would tour along camps and everything, performing for them, keeping morale up, and keeping morale up in other ways, as some rumors from GIs had thrown about. She wanted to make sure that if you were going to wake up tomorrow and possibly lose your life, at least you're leaving this world with a great time, if you know what I'm saying. But Marlene also would work as a spy for the States because she could travel freely amongst there being a huge celebrity that she was. So she also would collect information and bring it back to the States if she heard anything. If you recall watching Inglourious Basterds with Quentin Tarantino, this character was modeled a lot after Marlene Dietrich during the war. Like, she proudly worked as a spy and gathered information and carried it along to the US to make sure that the Nazis were defeated. And she did her part to make sure she did everything she could to help fight this war, even though she couldn't enlist. Like, that's the joke from her daughter, is like how she felt so passionate about it. If she could have enlisted, she would have. All right. Now I'm going to tease the rest of this and I'll be right back. All right, welcome back. We are just smoothing the hair out. Now, this hairstyle she had, I am absolutely obsessed with. Like, it's such an elegant, it's still kind of like dialing back to like that early era bombshell kind of hair, but just like updated for the modern woman. So I'm just cutting all the shapes into it to give it nice and a face framing effect. Because that's honestly what Marlene Dietrich was also known for. Like, besides being this like glamorous movie star, she also was like trailblazing in the way of beauty and beauty techniques to like work for the stage. Some of the stuff that was concocted for her is really jaw-dropping. Like, she was one of the first women to start using like cables, like full-on cables in her face to make sure it was held back. Like, the tales go is that underneath her wig, after a certain point, was surgical clips that she would clip to here, 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 and here to pull her skin back so that it would give this raised effect, like a pre-facelift kind of thing. Like, before the eras of a facelift, this is what actresses were doing. And like, one can only imagine what it's like when like they take that off after the day and just the face falls forward. Like, they have to look like hell. But it was like an old school technique from everyone from like Joan Crawford to Gloria Swanson all did this. It's just a way of like cheating, you know, age to make yourself look young for the camera. Because at that point, if your face started to sag or if you started to wilt in any kind of way, they were through with you. And she knew that better than anybody. Like, she was a sex symbol. So she went to great pains to make sure she stayed youthful, even in her old age. Now, once the 1950s and 60s rolled on, Marlene Dietrich wasn't really making a lot of appearances on film. She more or less became like a personality. She was a celebrity. She was famous for honestly being famous. And from that point on, she would make appearances on like radio programs, talk shows. Like, she was still a topic of fascination. But she would live a lot lower key life because she had put away a lot of money to where she could afford to do so. If you want a good howl, listen to her on Tallulah Bankhead's The Big Show. Like, you just hear these two, like, amazing, hilarious, quick-witted, bisexual, like, there's a sexual tension there, you could tell. It's like, oh, yeah, these girls know each other very well. Just read between the lines, honey. You could tell, it's like, oh, they've partied together, honey. But like, Marlene Dietrich, you listen to her and everything, like, she's just a pro, like an old pro. You can tell, like, she knew her way around the business. Now, one of the last films she would make would be kind of a box office bomb. It was the David Bowie film, Just a Gigolo, and the film was a box office bomb and marred with controversy with David Bowie itself anyway during its production. So, although when you think about it, it seems like the perfect fitting when it comes to like people who blur the gender line and were very iconic for pushing boundaries for their time. It seems like the ideal pairing, but it's a shame the film just wasn't very good. But that was kind of like a thing that happened a lot with like these silver screen era ladies. When you look at their final films, they're not often the best. Like Bette Davis with The Wicked Stepmother or Mae West with Sextet. Like, it's very rare that a starlet goes out on a real high. But yes, her beauty secrets are often copied or restored for modern era. Like, people still do those face tapes. Like, I think the surgical clamp has evolved into like the Max Trainer face tape that a lot of drag queens do and still do to this day. Like, it's still a tried and true practice. Even in theater and everything, to hold your skin back, a lot of older actresses still cling to it because it was like a cheap instant facelift without having to go under the knife. Not to mention, like, some of the stuff I've heard about her and things she would do for makeup. I believe it was Aaron Parsons that mentioned that she would use actual, like, ash. Like, one of her techniques to get her crease was she'd take, like, a plate, like a saucer plate, put a lighter underneath it, and use all that burnt part to basically do her crease with, and use that as her eyeshadow. Like, it's insane. It's like Dolly Parton level of, like, craft your own makeup. And all I'm doing right now is just crafting this to look like a nice little elegant bubble. Like, we got the side just the way we want it. Now we're just getting that front bang to lay just the way we want it. And the bang was kind of inconsistent. Sometimes she would have it like swooping down. Sometimes it'd be Marilyn flicking. It's all just a matter of how you caught her that day. However the wig was sitting. A little bit of help. But I love it because it's like this way, that way kind of hair where it's like swoop in and the other side's going out. But it's very Marlena right now. That's 1960s Marlena. And lock it in with a lot of hairspray. You know she had to just reek of Aquanet. Because you look at her like, watch her old performances. Not only does she just stand still, she does not move, but her hair also doesn't move either. But her performance style is honestly like, she's the proto of, how did she get famous again? Because she wasn't the greatest singer, but she had so much character and personality that people were just mesmerized by her. She was the proto woman of, you know, she just had this aura and this persona that people could not get enough of. Even if she wasn't like the most grandiose or even brilliant singer. Like she was hardly an Ethel Merman or Julie Garland or anyone that could like really belt. She had this deep, husky voice. She would sing off key often. Like, you listen to it, it's like not the most impressive performance, but just the way she stands there and just radiates is what drew people in and made her this big star. Especially in her later life as a cabaret singer and everything. Like, this bitch would sell out venues, okay? Like, she had a fan base. Alrighty, now I'm just going to do my finishing touches on this, and I think I'll be back with the final result. Be right back.
Estoy perdida. Encuéntrame.
What am I? I need you to come and find me. I only know how to say 3 words, and those words are...
Estoy perdida. Encuéntrame.
Thank you. Welcome back. This is the final result. And oh my God, I feel just like Marlene Dietrich. Oh my God. Now this is such a fun hairstyle to do. And honestly, like I adore like the late 60s, early 70s Marlena because her hairstyles just got so elegant. I could have done like the 1930s and 40s, but I feel like we do a lot of finger waves on this channel already. So it'd be kind of dialing something too familiar that we've seen dozens of times. So I wanted to do this version of Marlene, which is honestly my favorite anyway. Like stand still on a stage and just open your mouth, Marlena. That's what I love. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys want to see more of our iconic series, be it iconic blondes, brunettes, or maybe even redheads. If there's somebody you want to see, be sure and leave them down below, because I'm always listening. Yes. And if you like this wig, check out Jaymes Mansfield Beauty under the used wig tab. This will be as seen on YouTube. Marlene Dietrich. Before I go, I'd like to take a moment for my wiglets. And thank you to my wiglets, Jacob, Ernie, Duke, Just BKZ, Vera, myself, Sponge King, Pearface, Steve, so many kitties, Jake, JT, Christine, Curtis, Miss Mosey D, Romeo and Juliet, Selena, Rose, Darth Curray, Catalina, Miss Lansing, Maureen, Veronica, Molly, Carl, Dolores, Loreza, Martha, Louise, Harmon, Astro, B-Rex, Matthew, Roger, Tyler, Brian, David, Margarita, Adam, Samuel, Michael, Becca, Daniel, Chrissy, Okani, Doug, Eliza, Jason, and Katie. Thank you all so much, wiglets. Thank you so much, wiglets. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, bye. Goodbye, darlings. Now hit the outro. Click here and see my updated makeup look, or see my extensive RuPaul collection. Come on, click it, you know you want to. If you don't click it, you're super, super lame. So click it. This pool is nice. Do you think I need buccal fat removal? Quentin Tarantino wanted to see my feet. I was Stifler's mom. They call me a MILF.